The harsh truth when it comes to your healing journey is that you have to become the person that you are destined to be. Clock it. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it does not apply, then that means it is not in a line. So do not force it, as well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. In this video and for the month of April, we're going to be going over the harsh truths, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, and some disclaimers. So starting off with the disclaimer, starting off with the topic of today's video. It is a non-negotiable that you become the person you're meant to be the moment you enter this world. And the reason why I'm going to say that so vaguely and start off with that as the first disclaimer is because we are all meant to be someone. Now, you may not have always felt that way because of the trauma, because of the trials and tribulations, because of the adversity, and maybe because how you were brought up. But if you are not meant to be someone or meant to be somewhere, you would have, one, never have came in contact with this platform, with this channel, or me. And number two, you wouldn't have to go through the things that you had to go through. And let me know. Now, number two, you may not have always felt that way because maybe you were limited when it comes to finances and resources or support, or you did have to struggle a lot more. But just because you grew up a certain type of way doesn't mean that there's not other possibilities. Once again, this goes back to the first disclaimer. What are the chances of you watching this video? You have never met me before. You don't know who I am. And I'm not here to force or convince people to support me, but just to reassure you that you're not alone. Like, I've gone through certain things in my life. Like, I have went through trials and tribulations. I've been traumatized just like a lot of people. It's just I've decided to use this platform to motivate, inform, and educate, because that's what we do over here, as well as reassure you that it is okay that you had to go through the things that you went through, even though you may have felt like, why? And this is the third disclaimer, until you realize that you are meant to be someone, you will constantly allow yourself to sabotage yourself. You will constantly believe in certain people and places and things who try to limit you, whether it's emotionally, physically, financially. You will feel like you're not worthy or deserving, and that's not true. I've dealt with a lot of psychological manipulation and people trying to do like microaggressions and people getting me fired, people going out their way to hurt and harm me. But I'm telling you from experience, the reason why none of those things fazed me was because, number one, it was not destined for me to struggle or suffer. And number two, I know what I want and I know who I am. And that's the third thing. As you are figuring out who you want to be in this life, you are allowed and entitled to go after the things that you want. And it doesn't matter what has happened to you in your past, as long as you are learning and growing from the experiences, from the people and the places and things that you've had to witness and be exposed to, and you continue to show up. As long as you continue to show up, success is inevitable, as well as change. So regardless of how you are feeling or what you've gone through, you're not going to be in those same situations. And the reason why I can 100% guarantee you that is because you and I are not going to live forever physically. You have to understand that we come to this life to learn, to experience, and if we're going to learn and experience, we might as well go out with a bang and live the life that we want for ourselves. Now, this doesn't mean, once again, how you were raised, whether it was abusively, in poverty, you struggled, maybe you were touched on, whatever the trials and tribulation was. This doesn't mean that those things didn't happen to you and that your feelings are invalid and that you shouldn't seek a psychiatrist, a therapist, follow me, or go to your God, the ancestors in the universe, which I'm not here to force religion or spirituality. Take what resonates to the rest. Like, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't vocalize and articulate yourself and be vulnerable and you don't feel a certain type of way, because trauma does psychologically change you. But I'm telling you from experience, once you allow all of the things that were never meant for you or to better you to be what it was, you will be able to let it go. You will be able to accept it and not feel angry and not feel bitter. Just because you forgive yourself, just because you have to forgive your past, just because you are not who you used to be, or just because you lost certain things, does not mean it's the end of the world. And I keep reiterating that because that's the only reason why you're not able to be who you're meant to be, is because you think it's in the world. Like, a lot of us, we get traumatized, and I'm speaking from experience. I've talked about certain trials and tribulations I've experienced, and we think it's the end of the world, and it's not. And you guys, I have my notes. This is why I'm looking away for a second. I'm making this video in real time. When I was 20 years old, which I've talked about this over and over again, but if you're new here, once again, we motivate, inform, educate, and this may be your first time watching. I was 20 years old. I used to be 20. I'm not 20 no more. And I got fired. I've never been fired from a job. I was a finance representative. This was my first corporate job. This was a big girl job. This was a big deal. And I got fired. The reason why it was traumatic for me at the time was because, number one, I grew up financially privileged. Number two, I've never been fired from a job. And number three, THREE, I was dealing with bullies at my workplace. I was the youngest person on my job. All the people there were older than me. I dealt with that. So you have to realize, this doesn't mean that at 20 years old I didn't feel any type of way, because I did, but I had to make a decision. Like, am I going to allow these evil people to make me feel like I'm not worthy of having this job or having a job, or I'm meant to struggle and suffer? Or am I going to find a new job or start a business or even change my career or take some time to myself? Which I did. I took some time for myself immediately. Once I got fired, I was able to identify what I wanted to do with my career, which may constantly change, which is not always set in stone. And I started a business. You have to realize that who you're meant to be is not who you used to be. So everything that you went through, it's not to say that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't hold as much relevance when it comes to your present moment in your future, because the future version of you has already overcame those trials and tribulations, has already dealt with what quote unquote people say the devil, or the psychological warfare, or the abuse, or the poverty. So when it comes to the recommendations with you becoming who you're meant to be, you have to learn how to identify with that version of you that no longer exists, and accept what it is that you are meant to learn and release, and allow yourself to apologize to yourself and forgive yourself, which I've made videos talking about how to forgive yourself, how to move on from your past, and even from certain people, places, and things. This doesn't mean that what you've gone through was acceptable or that was right, but I'm telling you, the only way you're going to be who you're meant to be is just starting with forgiving yourself, because sometimes we don't know any better. If you grew up in a lot of dysfunction and corruption, and you've always been traumatized, or you've always dealt with psychological abuse or mental abuse or physical abuse, you become numb. You become angry, you become bitter, you become envious, you become sad, and a lot of times you blame yourself. Me personally, the reason why I don't think it's fair for you and I to blame ourselves is because if we knew better, we would do better. Don't you think if you knew that certain people and places and things try to plant certain seeds subconsciously or consciously, or doubt you, or do certain things to see you struggle and suffer, you would have avoided them? You wouldn't have put your time, energy, and effort into them. You would have realized, you would have been aware. And it's also not fair, especially, like I said, if you weren't even raised or you had the resources and the tools. So for example, I've dealt with, not just in the workplace, people having parasocial relationships with me, people trying to see me struggle and suffer, because I didn't struggle and suffer when I was around those people. But instead of me beating myself up or allowing the people and the places and things who I knew I was not compatible with, or who I knew had a different upbringing of me, I just took a step back. I was able to assess the situation for what it was, and I was able to realize that hurt people only hurt people because they're hurt. People who are used to being haters are only hating on people because they lack confidence. They lack reassurance in themselves. They don't think highly of themselves. Like, you don't have to internalize what has happened to you. And it's not even just with people, just our experiences. Just because you go through situations where you quote unquote acknowledge them as bad or cursed or whatever it is, doesn't mean that defines you. So when it comes to recommendations of you being who you're meant to be, the second thing you need to realize is that you did go through certain things. Certain things happened to you. Until you're able to accept what is happening to you and how it made you feel, you will be in denial, you will be in shock, and you will hold on to it. This is why people have PTSD. This is why people are anxious. This is why people are depressed. This is why people replay conversations that they cannot have, or they're angry and bitter with themselves and the people and the places and things. And this doesn't mean that everybody's out to get you or that everybody's envious of you. You know what you went through. Number 3, you also have to realize that if people are not willing to change their behavior or apologize or acknowledge their wrongs, you cannot continue to surround yourself with them. You cannot continue to try to make the good or see the good in people when they're not. Me personally, I don't want an apology from these people in these places and things. And because I've outgrown and evolved and moved on so much, I wouldn't have to cross paths with certain people, places, and things. Like, a lot of people want you to be angry. A lot of people want you to be bitter. There are a lot of people, like I said, who had parasocial relationships with me, and they were just weird. But once again, I knew they were weird. I knew they weren't me. I knew our energies were not compatible. Instead of me holding a grudge or being angry, I just had to accept I was in these certain situations to learn certain things about myself and them, and I'm going to move forward. Because if you know you went into certain situations where you weren't hurting, harming, and corrupting people or causing confusion, or you weren't envious, you're not going to lose sleep. I'm telling you all the time, like, yes, in the moment, like I said, you may lose your finances. Like, when I got fired, I was broke for maybe a couple of weeks, no longer than like a month. Yes, you may be homeless. Yes, you may be evicted. Yes, you may, like, whatever it is that you're going through. It doesn't have to stop there. It only stops there when you do not move forward and you don't speak up. Like, the third thing, you cannot be embarrassed or ashamed about what you went through. You can't compare what you went through to other people. Like, you can't worry about how people are going to perceive you and judge you when they try to hurt and harm you or you've been traumatized. Like, I was never worried about me being broke or me not having like a financial stability or me having cars or certain clothes or certain things, because I know what I went through. All the people who gossip about you, all the people who talk about me, never went through the things that I went through, and they could never. Because if it was them, a lot of people be like, oh, well, if that was me, I would have. No, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have made it on the other side. So it's just like, don't worry about people talking about you or judging you, because everybody has skeletons in their closets. It's just, I know that I'm not scary. I've never been afraid of anybody. This is why I come on the internet with millions and trillions of people to have them say whatever they want, because I'm secure in myself. I've always been secure in myself. And like I said, I'm not scared. So it's just like, when you get that level of confidence, even if it takes you some time, don't worry about people perceiving you or judging you. Because once again, the only people who talk down on you or try to hurt and harm you are people who are not being where they're meant to be. This is why you have people who just say negative things. Like, and it's not true. It's not true. Like, if you know you struggled and suffered, if you know you grew up in poverty, why would you listen to people who are not trying to get themselves out of poverty make you feel bad about having to work 2 jobs or having to take public transportation? Like, you have to realize who's around you, what you're listening to, what you're giving your attention to, and asking yourself, is this who I want to be? Because 100% of the time, it's not. The people that I had to outgrow financially, like in workplaces, I did not want to work in these environments long term. And I'm grateful I got fired, because now I get to wake up whenever I want. I've been able to wake up whenever I want, but I have the freedom that most people don't have. I'm able to have a schedule whenever I want. Most people don't have that luxury. Like, I know how blessed and how privileged I am. And this is why I use my privileges to inform and educate you guys, for those of you who resonate. You have to realize who you're meant to be is for you, and it doesn't need to be explained. So you don't have to prove yourself. You do have to forgive yourself. You do need to seek some type of therapist, psychiatrist, or like I said, make sure you guys are following me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below, as well as engaging, liking, and sharing, so I know like where you are, what you need to work on, what resonated with you. And if you're interested in the service in the session, let me know. Drop the word website. I'll have my website, even though it's already in the description. You can book a one-on-one. Other than that, I post free videos on here on YouTube for you for that reason, because everyone doesn't have the finances. Like, I'm well aware, I'm not tone deaf. But it's just like, in order for you to be who you're meant to be, you have to realize you're not who you used to be. You're going to have enough fluctuations of ups and downs. And until you decide that you're going to commit to this version of you, it's going to be a struggle. And this is why for the month of April, we're breaking those things down. So I'm going to end off the video with that. These are the harsh truths. That's just the beginning. Let me know if you guys want a part 2. Like I said, what resonates with you, where you're at. And just know you're not alone. I love you. Until next time, peace.